So that's where I am at the moment.
Okay.
But, yeah.
And how do you see the future for yourself? You're learning Spanish at the moment, and you're quite passionate about it.
Yeah, I am passionate about Spanish because I've travelled a lot and I've gone to various countries, and I'm half English myself. As I said, my father was Danish, and so as a child I had relatives come over from Sweden and Norway and Denmark, and I would hear different languages all the time, and I was fascinated by them, and they were my family, you know, and I was fascinated by it. But the way languages were taught when I grew up in the 60s and 70s, I couldn't get my head around it, and I didn't think they were taught very well. The oral part of a language was the least important when it was taught at school. You could pass O levels and A levels, as they were called then, but you could fail the oral on it. It didn't matter. Where now that seems ridiculous, but I never thought I could do it. And then much later on, about 10 years ago, I became interested in learning languages, specifically because I'd gone to Spain a few times. I liked the Spanish culture. I liked it because it was completely different to my own. I'm obviously from Northern European stock, and the Spanish people were completely different to me. They looked different to me. They were darker skinned and darker haired and darker eye coloured and much more open, and they wear the heart on their sleeve, and it wasn't that sort of Northern European reserve and conservativeness with a small c, and I was attracted to it because it was opposite to me. But I was flummoxed because I couldn't understand it, and I thought, oh, I'll never. And I got so frustrated that I thought, you know what, I'm just going to teach myself Spanish. And I came across a fantastic documentary called The Language Doctor that the BBC put on about this fantastic language teacher called Michelle Thomas, who had a unique way of teaching Spanish. Well, it was unique then, or any languages. And he taught various film stars and famous people to speak other languages, and he charged an awful lot of money from them. He was incredibly successful, but he would never reveal his techniques. The only way you could find out these techniques was if you did a course with him, and it was very expensive to do a course with him, and only very rich people could afford it. But as he got to the end of his life, he suddenly brought out some tape courses and CD courses, and I suddenly found it in a bookstore one day. I thought, oh, that's the guy I saw the documentary on. I picked up this tape course and I listened to it, and the way he taught it was in a way that he disseminated the language and put it back together again. And it was a clever idea because in the structure of the language course, it would be like a language class, and he'd have two students in real time. One was usually more competent than the other, and they were real students, and he'd teach them from scratch a language, and you'd be the third student. And you know, he'd ask a question, and how do you do this? The first student would answer, the second student would answer, and then you pause, and then you answered, and then you press play, and then see if you were right. And it was, I'd never come across this idea. And the other thing he stipulated was, I don't want you to write anything down or try to remember anything. This was controversial. Absolutely. I didn't think you could do this. I completed this course, and I thought, God, I understand how the structure of Spanish works now. And that set me on a journey to find out what other resources I could find. So I'd find other online courses, or people would put MP3s out or videos, and armed with a kind of a basis of how the structure, the skeleton of the language works grammatically, all I had to do was add vocabulary and practice it and find other resources. And then I was on my way, and I suddenly found I could have a very basic conversation with somebody in Spanish, and this was thrilling to me. It was, as I've said before to friends, it was kind of like doing a crossword, and when you suddenly got a crossword clue and you go, oh wow, I've got it. And it was the same feeling when I'd suddenly understood something in Spanish, or they'd understood me. It was the same thrill I'd got of communication, and the way they treated me once they had communicated with me, which was different when they couldn't understand me because I was English, because I was trying to speak their language. They let me in a bit more, and I let them into a bit of me, and this rapport developed. And I thought, wow, why haven't I done this before? And I was terribly excited about learning languages, and I just became obsessed by learning Spanish. And I would find any way I could ask anybody what tips they could give me, or force them to talk to me or help me, and it's just a lifelong quest. And it's I'm constantly improving. I don't know if ever I'll be perfect, but I'm in a constant state of trying to improve it, and I'm enjoying the journey so much. It thrills me, and doing those first courses with Michelle Thomas, I would finish it, and I would feel exhilarated, and I hadn't had this experience in a academic learning situation before in my life. I was actually excited about learning, and I still am today.
I think that's the answer to everything, and the same for the people who are listening. That you've got to get excited, you've got to be enthusiastic, you've got to love it.
Yeah. Absolutely, that seems to be a key thing for me, is enthusiasm and passion, because enthusiasm and passion are very, to me anyway, they're very attractive qualities in people. I'm very drawn to anybody that's enthusiastic or passionate about anything. It's a very attractive quality because their eyes light up. You can see a spirit inside them, and they want to share it with you, and I think it's a fantastic learning aid. That passion.
I agree entirely.
I am actually a passionate person because I was an artist. I'm sensitive, I suppose, and I feel things exquisitely, and so it gives me incredible enjoyment learning a language, incredible pleasure.
Peter, that's absolutely excellent. Thank you very much for that. I think we're going to split this into 2 videos because we're 17 minutes in, but that's brilliant. Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate that. Okay.
You're more than welcome.
Super.